so chassis out from under the body. I started degreasing this. I'm not going to show a ton of video about this because who wants to watch a dude degrease a transmission bell housing? And I am going to take the transfer case off, and I do want to clean this stuff, and I don't really have access to a parts washer. So I'm going to degrease it in place. I'm going to get rid of this cardboard catch, put an old Tupperware gray bin underneath it, and start going through it with degreaser. I'll kind of show it some time lapse. I checked out the inside of the transmission. It's got a little bit of rusty gears from, like where the gear was out of the oil, but it's going to be fine, and it feels tight, and it looks good otherwise. So I'll show that to you in a minute. Let's get to cleaning. Just wanted to show you the depth and thickness of the grease buildup. Look at that transmission mount, squashed, hardcore. Yeah, she's pretty greasy, man. I think all this stuff's original, never been out. No evidence that it's ever been out. So these T cases are kind of a pain on a T19. If you've done it, you know what I'm saying. That front bolt near the yoke, major pain. Anyway, she's coming out good. I'll lift her off about 2 minutes. So this is the good news. Like, look at that. I scraped it a little bit so like some junk fell, but look at that, man. That's like brand new, man. Very nice wear pattern. Now, I'm not sure. Dan Hayes from Binder Boneyard is sending me Binder Boneyard built Dana 20, some special parts, but this is what you want to see, man. This is like very good condition, and it looks great. So I'm not even going to take, I might just torque check this adapter housing bolts, but I'm just going to clean it, paint it, run it, except for the clutch. I'm excited to see what the clutch looks like. Probably worn, probably shot. All right, so I'm just going at it. This actually helped a lot. I was going at it with a hand brush, and I'm just using a citrus degreaser. I'm trying not to make a mess. Like, I don't really have a pressure washer or anything, so it's kind of slow going, but I'm just using this product, not a sponsor. But yeah, this drill helps a lot. You can really power it in there. And I'm not going for perfection. I just want it to be grease free so that if we have to service it, or I don't want to get greasy when we're working on this. So anyway, keeping at it. All right, so I don't know, an hour, maybe an hour and a half later, I made a big mess. I did use water, but if you use a blanket, it captures all the grease. Yeah, she's pretty clean enough. But now the bummer is the top 2/3, and I can go back and get little detail stuff like this, but is the bottom. So I gotta, tomorrow, I'll take the transmission off, take the cross member off, get that degreased, do the bottom of the transmission, pull the bell housing, check the clutch, inspect the back of the motor, maybe replace freeze plugs, whatever I gotta do, and then start putting it back together. Gotta keep it, because I gotta get to this frame. And by the end of the week, today's Tuesday, I definitely want to get minimum the frame cleaned and the rear suspension on, new rear differential, shackles, new bushings, all that kind of good stuff. And then I'm not going to waste much time, and I'll get going on the body, do the floor repair, and get them back mounted to each other. Oh yeah, and like I said, gusset up all the frame. Fun. To the next morning, the transmission and bell housing came out pretty decent. I'm going to just get ready to take the transmission off. So I can clean the bottom side and get to that clutch. And then I'll paint this stuff and hustle to get it back on. Again, the goal, amongst many goals, is to get the drivetrain situated. This week I want to get the frame kind of painted or whatever. I'm gonna, yeah, like paint, kind of quasi painted, definitely like gusseted it up, rear suspension on, because then as soon as I get the transfer case from Dan, I can get the drive shafts ordered from Tom Woods, start figuring out what I'm going to do with the, if I'm going to reuse these old brake hard lines or make new ones, probably make new ones. Yeah, let's go. So 3/4 1/2-inch drive ratchet. Up inside here, there's 4 bolts that bolt this on. That's the way I like to do it. You can take the bell housing, just take the whole thing off, but I find that to be a little more cumbersome. Extremely greasy. This way is pretty straightforward. And fortunately, I mean, it's a little greasy, but it was definitely more greasy on the top of the transmission than the bottom. I'm just so ready to have this thing not be greasy. I don't like working on greasy old stuff. Get this cross member off as soon as I get the transmission off, and then we can start scraping and cleaning that. I've been thinking a lot about this project, and oh man, there's so many. The motivating factor is I can see it done in my head, but the challenging factor is that there's so many steps to get there, and I empathize with you guys that have projects, whether it's just like, man, changing an intake manifold gasket down to like doing a full sheet metal job. It just takes, working on cars just takes patience and perseverance. And you got to keep that vision in front of you. Keep the excitement alive. All right. So I'm going to so greasy, you guys. This is probably the most greasy cavern. It's like a Fortnite name, Greasy Caverns. You don't really have to worry about the transmission falling out because they're studs. All right. Okay. Let's just go for it. This bowl gear is kind of sharp on the hand. Oh, but dude, I gotta put a jack stand or the jack under the motor. All right, let me pause it for a sec. I'll come back when I'm set up. All right, so I got the stuff rigged up. Now I'm nervous because I'm gonna have to try to lift this. Yeah, it's probably 125 pounds, you know, not too bad. Get the throw bearing sleeve. Collar, it's called. Actually looks, I think it's from 2005. So it's had a clutch. All right, here we go. Hold on, let me get this e-brake cable out of the way. All right, woo. Getting too old for that. Okay. Blast this bell housing off, check out that clutch. And I took 3 of the bolts out of this. I could take the last bolt out. Okay, I'm gonna do that real quick. Hour later and I got distracted. I got this all clean and decreased. So that's good. I'm gonna probably triangulate this to make it a little stronger. I think we're planning on doing a skid plate if we have time, because what's most important is that we actually get to the race. What is that phrase? Perfect is the enemy of good. Or good enough, maybe. Because at some point, and everybody kind of, that's a builder, knows this, like, get like a SEMA date or some show. Whoa. Oh, it's just a dowel. All right. Okay, no, it's definitely, it's a factory style clutch, but I don't know if, all right, let's get the clutch taken off. Then I gotta do some just organizing. I feel like everything's a mess right now. Okay. Well, there we go. Well, the good news is everything's in, let's show you. Everything's in good shape. Oh, let me see here, I'll come around. Everything's in good shape. There's nothing like sketch about it, but it's definitely, I'm gonna replace it. It's not worth it to risk all the money and time that'll go into doing a race and then having a clutch failure because you just didn't. So I'll find out. I'm going to pull this off, get this resurfaced. Oh, it's a good thing I checked the starter because I have not engaged the starter yet, and the gear is not meshing. Oh, actually it is. Okay, I'm gonna stop horsing around. So let me just walk you around. I gotta get that off, get that cleaned, and that's my goal by tomorrow. It's just because I got a short day today. Owen's gonna be helping me tomorrow, so tomorrow I'll have him start cleaning the frame. But I gotta get this mess cleaned up and organized. All right. All right, so here we are. This has been an embarrassingly long process, about 2 hours to degrease this by hand. Both the outside wasn't so bad, but the inside, man, was clutch dust and grease. So anyway, I think I'm gonna paint this red. I was gonna go black or silver. Black is no good because you want to be able to see if it's leaking, and black is hard to see if things are leaking. On a race truck, feels like a recreational truck, I'd probably go black, but so Owen's working on that. She's pretty clean inside. A little rust over there, but I think it's okay. All right, so we're gonna shoot some paint, and I think we'll go red. Maybe we'll go silver on the transmission, red on the bell housing. Let's see. This part is satisfying, but getting here is such a pain. It's easy, man, when you live in a small town or not in California. You just take stuff to an auto parts store and they can degrease things for you, hot tank it, whatever. But we just don't have that kind of stuff here. It's not very accessible. So I just thought it was faster to clean it by hand. We'll see. All right, here's Owen's masterpiece. Listen, man, the faux silvers wouldn't be my choice. I wish I had like a cast iron gray, but we had this paint metallic silver. Anyway, it'll be great because we'll be able to see oil leaks real easy. Looks good, man, a lot of work. It's time to get that frame. We're gonna bring it over to that yard and wire brush the frame. It's gonna be a fun job. Time lapse, here we go. Good morning. Well, good afternoon at this point. Okay, so we're starting on the next phase, which is, so Owen got all the spring bushings out this morning. Spring body bushings. And we're working on getting that rear differential out and getting the actual diff in with new springs. And I'm gusseting up all these body mount. I have made a decision this morning that the cage is going to hover through the body. So the body's not going to be hard mounted to the cage. The body will rely on the factory body bushings. So that said, I'll probably gusset up and beef up all the body mounts a bit. I got these plates. So on the factory race truck I have, on Sherman's truck, these are all fully rebuilt from scratch in 3/16. I've not seen a lot of failures on spring hangers like this. And if you have, comment below. Like, these hangers obviously break all the time, so those are gone and beefed up. But these, man, you just don't see these broken that often. Of the 1,000 Scouts I've seen, I can't really recount any that these have broken off, other than like a really hard collision or when they've been cut off. So we're gonna gusset, close up all this stuff, and that's what I'm working on now. So, and we're going real garage fab. Let me show you how I'm cutting all this metal with the old Portavan on swag. I've showed you this before. This thing is a lifesaver and great for your garage. Does not take up a lot of space. It's portable, simple drill press. You need a decent welder. So anyway, I'm gonna start welding. Everything's pretty cleaned and prepped. I'll blow some paint in these pockets just to slow down the little bit of rust that's there, but I'm not too worried about that. Okay, let's keep cranking. All right, so I'm a little rusty on my fabrication, but again, it's good enough. I'm gonna redo how I did. I thought I could bend this over, but with the lack of structure back there, you can see it kind of like bowed. It's fine, but I'm gonna make it a 2-piece gusset on the other side. And then again, like I'll probably put like a small stub with a plate. These are my roll bar plates that I'm gonna make. So it'll sit up flush with the floor like that. So I'll kind of figure that out once I put the body back on. Anyway, we're just gonna keep tooling away. Owen's just cleaning up the front side of this transmission. Got a clutch coming from IH Parts America. Thank you, IH Parts. They always are good for that stock factory stuff. Dan Binder Boneyard's got the front end and the transfer case coming, so that's exciting. And I gotta find a local machine shop to surface this flywheel, so I'm working on that. But by next week, we should have a big week, get the drivetrain all installed, have most of the fabrication done on the frame. Just day by day, piece by piece. here's a little recap of the day, maybe of this video. We'll see. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you guys start engaging in the comments and let me know things I'm not thinking about or things I'm missing as we do this walkthrough. I'd rather deal with stuff now than later. Transmission side panels got put on, cleaned, resealed and greased the seal on the nose cone. Everything looked fine. Bell housing's clean. Put new spring bushings in the Devers. Got these gusseted, that gusseted, that gusseted, and then that gusseted on both sides. So I feel good about that. So I think next up is going to be getting the drivetrain in. I'm going to retain this factory cross member, but I'm going to add in I'm going to weld in some nuts and triangulate this, just like this, and that should give it quite a bit more strength. Again, this is what was on the factory race truck, so they didn't feel like it was necessary. I am going to put an aluminum skid plate on the belly, but another big day. Well, another little day, but we had a good day. Yeah, next video, we'll do the rear differential, rear springs, and start probably, just keep going on flywheel, clutch, transmission, transfer case. We'll also have the rear difference. We can order drive shafts from Tom Woods. Keep making progress step by step. So again, throw some comments in. Let me know things that you might do or things I should think about for a race truck that's going to get abused for over 1,200 miles, 4,000 RPMs the whole time. How much of the time?
The whole time.
All right, what's up? I know for you it's like a millisecond, but for me it's after Christmas now. We had our good push before, and I got this new jacket from INR, and I decided iron and resin. It's called their Chore Coats. I wanted to kind of like, I love the Mr. Rogers vibe where you're like, it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, and you put on your jacket. So this is my new Chore Coat, shop coat. Gonna use it and just thrash it. We'll see how it holds up. Do a long-term review on it. I dig their stuff. But yes, so I'm not gonna recap because I kind of forgot if I already recapped. But today is clutch day. I got a clutch from IH Parts America. They had it in stock, which was great. We can get clutches and some of that original stuff, but we just don't, it's not our specialty. And those guys had it in stock, and it's they got it out right away, so that's awesome. I'll show you that. Also made a decision to, as hard as, like some of where you guys live, like in Iowa, it's still easy to get machining services, automotive machining services. Here at the Race Terra shop in California, it's actually very difficult to find shops to do automotive machining. So I found a shop called Bones Fab, and they turned the flywheel for me. I'm going to show that to you right now. And since this project started like kind of like junkyard vibes, like, and it's kind of changing, it's still original and simple, but I was not going to, I was like contemplating just sanding this. And if you look in the clips that I just showed you, well, that I'll play right now. You can see that the flywheel was actually not round, dude. It was like, so I'm super glad we turned it. It's going to be a great performance. We'll put the clutch on, and then I'm going to modify the cross member, get that painted today, so that tomorrow, here, let me show you a couple things. So I think I'm not sure if I showed you this, but in the back of the motor there are these dowels that are very important. And I was missing one, so this did not have a dowel in it for a long time. And that is not good for pilot bearing alignment and input shaft. So got that set up. Look at that thing of beauty. And I'll put a brand new pilot bearing in there. So we'll get that going. Then I just got this idea, since I want to leave the provision for a skid plate. Here's our cross member. I'm going to weld nuts and drill a couple more holes so that if I need to bolt a cross member to this, I can. The vision is to have an aluminum cross member. Then I also tested out the CRC rust converter in this little section of the frame, and man, it really did a good job. Completely converted. Now to contrast that, I tried this Loctite rust neutralizer right here, and you can kind of see it, but it didn't seem to do as good of a job as the CRC. So I think I'll coat the rest of the frame in that. And again, goal in the next 2 days is to have engine and transmission. Hopefully transfer case shows up and I can order drive shafts, sling the rear differential. So this week's going to be busy. This video should be, I'm not sure where I'll cut it off. I don't know if we prefer the videos super long or more often and shorter. You guys can comment and let me know what you think. So let's get to work. The book to look for the torque specs, and then I'm like, you know, we got all this stuff on our website. So if you go to anythingscout.com, go to torque specs. Our guy Luke has worked really hard to fill this all in. It's a great resource and tool for all of us people that work on Scout stuff. So if we look at engine, there's some general like 5/16. You know, like you can see there's some general and some specific torque values. So flywheel crankshaft right there, 45 to 55. Then if we go to 3 1/2 inch 13 bell housing to engine, 105. So we'll go 50 here and 105 on the bell housing. Pertinent, excellent information. One more I'm looking. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is a sealed pilot bearing. Sometimes there's bushings, but I don't think any IHs use bushings. So these all have this bearing. I'm gonna pop it in using this. Make sure you don't use a socket that's too small, and you don't want to push on the inner surface of the bearing. Let's do this on the ground because I don't really have a workbench that's strong enough. Going in pretty easy. I think we'll just go until it's flush. Okay, that is set. Now, flywheel on. Now, unlike a 345, a 196 is, I think this is based off of just what I've understood. The 196 is internally balanced. A 345 or 304 has 9 bolts and like a dowel pin that goes in the crank and into here. And that is so that it can stay balanced because there's a counterweight on the flywheel or flex plate. This 196 has no counterweights. You can see it's all the same on the backside, and there's no mark or differentiation between the bolts. So we are just going to put it on there, and then secondarily, these bolts do go into the crank. Kind of heavy. Whoa. I'm going to put a bolt in and hold it because it is sketchy. Yeah, the way I have the jack is like the engine is being very dynamically held up. So I'm going to make sure I get this started correctly. And then you do need to put sealer on these bolts because these bolts penetrate through the crankshaft into the oil, into the crankcase essentially. So what I'm going to do though is just get it kind of started here. I'm going to chalk these wheels because it's so sketchy right now. Okay, that's better. I'm just going to get these a little bit snug. 9/16. And it was probably like, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago that I just ignorantly installed a flywheel and just put the bolts in, and then I had a massive oil, well, not a massive, but a steady oil leak. And it turns out I was leaking out these bolts. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. That's what I remember. So I'm going to use this, and as long as it's wet, it shouldn't affect the torque spec. So I'm just going to make sure it's seated correctly. Just a nice even coat on the threads. Remember, we're torquing this to 50 pounds. I'm just using this to get them started. Would help if I had it go in the right direction. I'm so stoked on this surface flywheel. It's going to be so smooth, brand new clutch. So I'm not kidding, man. This thing's going to see 4,000 RPMs for a lot of hours. No, I don't know about that, but close to it. All right, you don't need to watch me do this. So I'm going to install these, torque them, and then we'll put the clutch on. Okay, so we're all set here. I'm just got to remove these hold down bolts. I'm all torqued here, and then I'll set the disc, make sure my pilot bearing is all engaged. Okay, and we're gonna move on to the throttle bearing. No, not throttle bearing. The cross member. I gotta get the cross member painted because my dowel should show up tomorrow. Then we'll put the bell housing, transmission, cross member, and then I'll just wait patiently for my transfer case, and I'll be stoked. All right, man, so we got the cross member. I'm only gonna do this one side. Got my skid plate bolt holes because I'm worried about transfer case drive shaft interference on this side, so I'm not gonna mess with that, or transmission interference. I've checked transfer case clearance on this side. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit with a grinder and shoot some paint on it. I'm using the Steel It paint. Sorry, my microphone died. Using Steel It paint because this is not UV, exposed to UV. if I ever need to, if this ever cracks again, you can weld to this stud. All right, I think that's gonna wrap it up for me for the day. Maybe for the episode. I'll get to editing and then we'll see how long it is, and we'll see you tomorrow either way. All right, well, my microphone died and it's getting late, so I'm gonna wrap it up for the day. We got the cross member done, the flywheel turned, the clutch in. Pretty stoked. Tomorrow is going to be, I think, getting the rear axle out, get the new axle hung, and hopefully get the transmission and bell housing installed in the cross member. So as always, thanks for hanging out. See you tomorrow.